All right, welcome back. On today's episode of the Being Magnificent podcast, we are going to dive into one of our tales of a wedding planner. Now, guys, this was a recent one and it's been on our mind to share, but it was one of our weddings. It was fantastic. Congratulations to the couple. Everything seemed to go well, but let me tell you, there are things that happen at weddings that people would be very surprised by, that often if there's a good planner, people won't even know are happening, but are also just an example of people. It's the nature of people. It is a human organization. It is a human thing. It is bringing personalities together. Sometimes there's tension. Sometimes there's attitude. Sometimes there's too much love, not enough love, too many people loving the wrong people, kind of. Anyway, so this particular wedding, it was a really, really sweet couple. They were super nice. They were so sweet. And of course, I've mentioned before on the podcast that I do have a daughter. And so one of our last meetings, I took the baby with me, and it was kind of middle of the day. We were just doing a quick run through. It's no big deal. Like, she's very small. And the bride was so happy. That is one thing that I will say a baby will give a bride is baby fever. And since that's sort of the next step in the life cycle there, it's understandable. Anyway, I digress. So I take the baby with me. They're really excited to meet her. They've seen her on Zooms. That's all fun. No big deal. I think they asked me maybe if I was bringing the baby to the wedding, and I think I said no. But I had told this bride that she has came to a couple of weddings with me. So a couple days later, we get to the rehearsal, which was not on site at the venue, but I offered to do the rehearsal practice for the couple and their family, what was most convenient for them. So I met them in a location. I said, don't worry, I can line you guys up. We can practice it. Everybody will know where to stand. No big deal. You guys can be on your way to dinner. And of course, I have my daughter with me because we were out and about. And she's sitting there in her stroller, and she doesn't make noise. She doesn't really cry. And the mother of the bride came up to me at the end, and she looked at her and said, is she going to be here? And I looked down and I said, my daughter? I said, no, she's not. And she said, well, my daughter told me that you bring her to weddings. And I said to her, well, then she's going to end up at your wedding. And I think that's unprofessional. Okay, mom of three. Do you find that unprofessional? Okay. And I said, yeah, no, I've taken her to other weddings, except those people actually wanted her to be there. Some of my couples were like, yes, please bring the baby. We've gotten to know her. Whatever the reason, that is, first of all, none of her business. And secondly, 2024, did you just shame a working mom? Did you? But because I'm a professional, I said, no, there's too many elements tomorrow. The baby will not be there. She's actually going to be staying with her sitter. Thank you so much, though. And already mom and I are clearly not on the best foot starting off. So then we get to the wedding day and everybody arrives for photos, and I'm lining people up. And there's a couple of times that the mom's like, shouldn't we be doing this now? And I said, no, actually, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. I've done a few of these, like 599 or so. So no, you're good. Respectfully, you're good. We get everybody down the aisle, and I noticed one of the bridesmaids can barely stand up. Now, this was a venue where you had to stand on the stairs leading down into the pit, and the pit being the garden pit, like not a pit, but a garden pit. And so I noticed that the bridesmaid can't really stand. She's got a little bit of a lean to her. I said, oh no. So I called the reception venue and I said, hey, heads up, this particular bridesmaid, make sure she is cut off from the bar. We are not going to let this keep going. If anything, she orders vodka or tequila, give her water, right? There are ways around this so that there is not a big embarrassing issue for the couple. Again, done a few of these, kind of know what to get. So everybody gets back in the bus. They're headed over to the venue site. I've got one of my staff members over there. Give her a heads up as well. Everybody converts over there. What's the first thing that happens? Not this bridesmaid, but the photographer leaves half of her gear on the bus. And so I had to solve that problem. That's never happened. The bus was already across the Bay Bridge. So we had to have it turn around, come back. It was a whole thing. And how you forget most of your luggage, don't really know. But anyway, so then we see that I saw that the bridesmaid in question was talking to the bride, and the bride kept saying like, oh, you need to calm down. You need to have some water. And I'm trying to put a buffer between them, just let the bride go enjoy herself. And all of a sudden there's another party that decides that she needs to throw up. And she does it in the service sink. And she's with this particular bridesmaid. So now it looks like there's two of you that are looking like this, right? So the venue freaks out. We try to kind of, get everybody under control. They go out, they take a breath. Okay, they come back. It wasn't that they're drunk. She had taken some medicine, whatever it was. Nonetheless, she came back. Okay. Then about, I don't know, an hour or two later, the security at the venue comes to me and says, that bridesmaid that was in question has left the building about 30 minutes ago and she hasn't came back. Now, we were in downtown Oakland. Nothing wrong with Oakland. Used to live there. Love it. However, there is a new Oakland going on. And I didn't think it was very safe for the bridesmaid to be just wandering around, clearly a little intoxicated in Oakland. And so I said, okay, well, nobody tell the bride. I'm going to be right back if she needs me. My second person was there, so it's all good. And I went on a walk and I walked around in circles. I saw security. He said he hadn't seen him. I stopped in on buildings. I asked if anybody had seen this woman. And I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe she caught an Uber. Like, she's a grown adult. And then I go back in the venue, and out of the corner of my eye, I see a little head laying under a tree with her feet dangling over the lake down there in Oakland. And I walk up and I say to the young lady, I was like, hey, you want to come back to the party? Now, she's rolled around in the grass. She's got it kind of covered on her. And she looked at me and slurred out the words, I am an adult. It has been a long day and I just need a nap. Okay. And she said, you don't have to check on me. And I said, actually, it's my responsibility a little bit to make sure you're okay. And so I told her I'm going to give her 30 minutes. I'm going to go back and check on her every 30 minutes until she comes back. Now, the mistake that happened here is that I did not tell my second person to protect the bride, like stand guard at her table and don't let anybody talk to her until I return, not thinking that she has any clue about the missing bridesmaid. And I get back and there's two people at her table and I said, oh, that can't be good. I walked up to her and they were saying something to her and they dispersed. And my bride says, oh my God, did you hear about such and such? And I said, yes. She's fine. She's safe. I know where she's at. And you don't want her here right now. She needs to cool off a little bit. And my bride said, I can't believe it. She's such a, obviously there were words spoken. And I had to remind her, look out, look at your crowd. There's 100 and something people here that want to be here, that are happy to be here. So how about we just forget about such and such? Ended up that the bridesmaid did come back in. She did look nice and clean. And she went up to me and said, I'm back, just so you know. Great. I love that. Thank you. Welcome back to the party. Additionally, the mother of the bride was fanning herself with my table number towards the end of the night. And I went to go get that from her. Like, I need a full set of table numbers. So I would like to get that back. And I walked up to her and, there were a few other interactions that took place where the bride kept telling her mother, like, no, Christa's got it. Like, this is what Christa was here for. This is what we were hired for. So when I took the table number from the mom, she said, I just want to say everything was, and I'm sorry for, it was something like that. Something along the lines of not fully apologizing for the seemingly rude comment she made to me, but also like not fully saying everything turned out great. I'm not really sure what that was about. But the funnier part to top that off is that I packed up all the stuff for the couple. I drove it to their hotel and I get there to unpack and I put it on the cart for the valet. And the mom comes up in her Uber. And it's like, it's undeniable now that I have done way beyond 5-star service. So it's pretty clear now at this point that I have done, again, 5-star service. And it was funny because I finally got the thank you. Everything turned out great. Not that I'm always looking for that, but not going to lie, when it happens, it's nice. So that is just one of the tales of a wedding planner that I'd like to share today. And there are plenty more. I've been doing this a very long time. That was just one of the funny stories. So hopefully you were entertained by that. Again, no names will be given. And couple, if you are watching this, all the best to you both. You know who you are. You know that I love you. You know that you are very close and near and dear to my heart. And I look forward to watching your family expand and grow on socials, because that's where, we're connected for life at this point. But that was just one of the experiences I had, and shaming a mom in 2024 is just beyond me. So really quick, while I'm on the topic, women can do anything, as men can do as well. The only difference is we birth babies and men cannot do that. So there's some like a one up that we have. Also, a man is probably going to be stronger than most women, like 99% of the time. So when we say we can do things, please don't respond with the fact that you can do them too. We don't want to hear that, because there are certain things that you cannot do. And men don't want to hear that you don't need a man and you can do it yourself, because you can and you can't. For certain things, yes, you do need a man. And that will get us into an entire hours long worth topic, which I could talk about. But just wanted to touch on it lightly because it could come down the line later in this podcast on the Being Magnificent podcast, as we talk about not only tales of a wedding planner, tales of a mother planner entrepreneur, but also what it means to be magnificent. And one of the things that it means to be magnificent is in all areas of your life. And thinking about the life cycle, we're going to talk about all those particular areas. And one of those is relationships, because for most people, that is a thing, whether it's relationships at your job, relationships in your personal life, relationships in your household, relationships in your family. Relationships are a big deal. And the feminine and masculine sometimes battle in ways that they shouldn't. And so, hey, tap in. Let's talk about it. If you've got a guest that you'd like to feature on this show, if you'd like to be a company featured on this show, we do have sponsorship opportunities available. We'd love to interview anybody who's a small business owner that's actually changing lives, anybody in the industry here that wants to share their story, tales of a photographer, videographer, florist, DJ. Please, we welcome the guest joining us on one of these podcasts. But until next time, stay magnificent.